Attack on Titan. The experience I've had with this show is unlike any anime I've ever watched almost. My first experience with this show was back in 2014 when it debuted on Toonami, and originally I was a little bit apprehensive about watching it because while I was already an avid anime watcher, 10-year-old Tobiwashi wasn't really keen on watching people getting eaten by bigger people. And after watching whatever episode it was that Eren gets his arms and legs eaten, I had a nightmare that I was getting eaten alive by Titans, and that more or less ended my Attack on Titan viewership for the next 2 years or so until I caught the full first season on Crunchyroll. Afterwards, the show did its infamous 4-year-long hiatus between seasons 1 and 2. However, the wait was worth it because season 2 of Attack on Titan was one of the best 12 episode stretches in anime fucking history. It had great pacing, good plot twists that were purposeful and didn't just subvert my expectations for no reason, beautifully choreographed action sequences, and a conclusion that answered important questions posed in previous seasons while still leaving room for ambiguity. A year later, part 1 of Attack on Titan season 3 dropped, and it was still pretty good to be honest. However, it has one glaring problem. Rod fucking Reese. Don't get me wrong, I understand Rod's purpose in the story, and at the time of his introduction and during the Titan Sanctuary battle, I enjoyed his character thoroughly, but as soon as he licked that Titan neck juice off of the Sanctuary floor, I no longer saw a need for him to be in the show. Not only does Rod, the only person who has any significant knowledge about Titans, lick the neck juice off the floor, he then somehow turns into this 300-foot CGI monstrosity that our heroes spend like 4 episodes trying to defeat, and it was mainly just a way to write Historia into earning, in quotation marks, her right to be queen or some stupid shit like that. And him turning into a Titan really serves no other purpose other than giving Eren an excuse to use his new Titan powers and being filler for Shiganshina. You could really remove that whole sequence, write another way for Historia to become queen, and get straight to Shiganshina. Oh, and right away for Eren to get his new powers, I guess. Now that's not to say that it was bad, because it still had some of the best sequences in the entire show. We get more insight into some of the questions that were left unanswered last season, and it sets up Shiganshina perfectly. Well, almost perfectly. Then we get the Shiganshina arc, and this is where the show gets back to season 2 levels with more intense and meaningful stakes, more excellent action sequences / choreography, the conclusion and fleshing out of multiple character arcs. The side cast still plays important roles, and again, most importantly, the show did not subvert my expectations for no reason. Every twist felt natural, and while I always had an idea of what was going to happen, I was still fairly surprised by most of the plot developments this season. However, just like part 1, there is one glaring problem: the Colossal Titan. Now this problem is a little bit more dismissible than Rod Reese, since Bertolt / the Colossal Titan was sort of pivotal in the story and you can't just leave his whole character out, but you also can't animate such a huge character with only a year's worth of time to animate, while also producing some of the best animation sequences of all time in that same season. So while I do give them a pass, it doesn't change the fact that all the sequences with the Colossal Titans are kind of ugly and really jarring to look at. But despite that, season 3 does mostly everything else right. Now what we've all been waiting for, I guess. Season 4. At the time of the reveal trailer for Attack on Titan Season 4 Part 1, I was ready to name Attack on Titan my GOAT. But between the time of the trailer and the release of the show, a lot of things change. Based on the title of this video, you guys can probably guess my opinion on the show as it stands right now. I hate it. Now mind you, this is coming from someone who liked Attack on Titan so much that upon seeing the trailer, I was so excited that I intentionally read the manga and spoiled myself. The first ever manga I ever read. Niggas don't even read. I don't read. I'm a nigga. But I read up to the conclusion of the attack on Marley, and then I stopped reading because it was so good that I wanted to see the rest of the story animated. Then we got this. Now I know what you're thinking. Toby, why are you angry about the CGI in season 4 when you just gave season 3 a pass? Well, actually, there are 2 answers to your question. One, I had already read the manga for half of season 4 at the time of its release, so I was basically already only watching to see the animation. And 2, the Colossal Titan has a maximum of like 6 scenes in season 3, and despite that, a few of them were still animated in 2D. So when I see episode 1 and all the Titans in the show look like King and Ashura characters, it sort of ruined my experience a little bit. And I know what you're thinking. But Toby, Mappa was already over capacity when they took on AOT, and they just simply don't have the time to animate Titans this season, so they had to use CGI. And it's not even bad CGI, so stop complaining. And to that I say, that is not my problem. Not to sound devoid of sympathy or anything, but I'm critiquing the show for what it is. And for an Attack on Titan season, this is visually the worst season. A lot of people tell me, well, if Mappa didn't do the show, it might have had to go on hiatus again. And to that I say, I don't really care. For one, it wouldn't be the first time Attack on Titan did a long hiatus anyway. And imagine if instead of the first episode of season 4 coming out 2 years ago, it came out today and looked as good as the trailer did. But alas, this world is not perfect and we got what we got. It was still classic Attack on Titan, and this season was probably on levels on par with, if not better than season 2 in terms of story. Now we get to more recent events. Attack on Titan season 4 part 2. And to be honest, this whole part looks very skippable. I don't know if it's just me, but the CGI somehow looks worse to me this season, and I tried to be open-minded about the whole thing, but the show is just not visually appealing to me. You can say whatever you want, I'm being annoying or the CGI is actually good, but the best CGI is still worse than like 90% of good animation, so you'd be telling me that for no reason. And I don't really care how good the CGI is, I don't want it in the show, and it has officially ruined the experience for me. But if you're an anime only watcher, you should definitely still watch, because Attack on Titan is still one of the best anime I've ever seen, even though the ending wasn't really for me in all honesty. Does this mean I'm gonna stop watching? No, because I'm a masochist and I am genuinely invested in ruining my experience with this series even further, and despite all my qualms, I still want to see the series animated. But to sum everything up, Season 4 parts 1 and 2 are bad anime adaptations no matter how many excuses you make for it. But the Attack on Titan series is so good that if you haven't read it, you should. And if you aren't going to read it, you should watch it. But that's really all I have to say for today. So thank you all for watching and have a good night. Peace.